So Josiah, just let me know who you are.
That's a good question. I am basically I consider myself a visual artist first and foremost, and or I try to be an artist in every sense of the word, just as far as creating things, and that I specifically try to create things that are for people to inspire them to create things. I've grown up in Chattanooga most of my life. My family moved here when I was 6, and basically I just was educated here, went to college here, went away a little bit for law school, then came back here, and so I work as both a artist and a lawyer, and try to find other creative people and try to find ways to connect and also to combine all of my aspirations and interests and ambitions.
So you started drawing when you were 6,
Yes.
more or less. Talk to me about your childhood. What do you remember?
Yeah, I had a very creative childhood. Both my parents are artists. They don't work as professional artists, but they're both like extremely talented people. My father is a writer. My mom is a painter, and so and they both do a little bit of theater. So growing up, they were always doing exercises and just finding creative ways to go through the day with me, as far as like what, just telling stories or creating stories or visualizing things, or even solving problems, finding out creative ways to solve problems. And that ran throughout my childhood. That was really a really beautiful thing, because it allowed me to be very imaginative and to think creatively and critically, and also create. I was always drawing when I was a kid. I was always writing stories, trying to make little makeshift books or comic books or whatever, and sharing it with friends. And I loved engaging with people and trying to create things together. And so that was basically how I grew up.
And you have been living in Chattanooga all your life, more or less?
Yeah, more or less. Since I was 6, I've lived here, and moved away a little bit on occasion for like grad school or what have you, but I've been here for most of my life. Yeah.
You have been growing up with the city at the same time,
Right.
because Chattanooga has been growing the last 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Our family moved here right around the time of all of the development on the riverfront and the creek. After, like, shortly or right around the time the aquarium was established, and so all of that part of downtown began its development. And so I've seen that, as well as the development of the South Side and the different parts of Chattanooga that have been growing. And so it's been really interesting, especially growing up, because there's always that inkling to try to discover your purpose and your passion, and it's easy to feel that it may not be where you are, where you've grown up, but when you're able to see a city grow and you're able to find a place where you can grow along with the city, that's really special. And at this time, I feel that's my current state, so I'm thankful for that.
Josiah, what does art as a big word mean for you?
Oh, wow. When I think of the word art, I think of just doing something to a level that it takes your mind to a higher state. I'm really inspired by this, by the writings or the teachings of this famous American art teacher called Robert Henry, and he basically argued that anyone, even if they don't specifically make like painting or a drawing or a piece of music or something, they can be an artist in their own right when they're doing something that they're passionate about and that they're so dedicated to, and at a level of skill where they elevated, and when they themselves feel elevated. When I try to draw every morning, and when I do that, it's almost like a ritual where I'm getting myself into a higher state of mind and into a higher state of consciousness, and so I feel like art is the gateway, I guess, to that higher state of consciousness for human beings.
Absolutely agree. Do you think that art may be a tool or a weapon for changing the world?
I see. That's a good question. I think art is I think it can be both. I think it can be a tool, and a constructive tool. I think it can be a weapon, and sometimes constructive, sometimes destructive, actually. I think when you look at examples throughout history, unfortunately, there are times where, I guess, like, for example, the propaganda of World War II, technically, if you look at, like, some of those magazines or those drawings or something that arose from that period, it takes artistic skill and talent to do that, but it creates a really perverse and upsetting result, and when it serves that certain propaganda and stuff like that. On the other hand, when you have a painting like, and I'm going to mispronounce the name because of my limited dialect, but Pablo Picasso's painting Guernica, after the bombing of that city,
Guernica.
It's just it's a devastating account, and it's powerful. And even if you don't have any context, if you don't know what the painting is about, when you first see it, you feel what it's about. And I think in that sense, art is a weapon. It tells a story that needs to be told, and it specifically addresses the wrongs. It rights the wrongs that are being done in society at that time. And I think musicians have done that a lot. And when with protest music of the 1960s America, and I'm sure it's like a theme that's carried in other countries and environments, but to answer your question, yeah, I think it can be both.
Sometimes I think that we have so many different art now, currently in our society, but sometimes I think that we need another kind of art, more awakening. What do you think?
That's a good point. I do.
Do we have enough art? But what kind of art do we need?
Right. I don't think we do. I think art is one of those things that there are a lot of pretty things, but being beautiful and actually having meaning, or that's another level. And I do think there's a lot of stuff in social media and everything that's pretty to look at, that's enjoyable, that takes talent, but maybe it doesn't really give you something to take away from, and it doesn't like really move you or mobilize you or motivate you. And there should be more of that. And I think that takes artists and people in general being aware of what the state of our world is, and things that are going on, so they're better informed, so they realize maybe I can address this creatively.
You are developing a group of art and design in Chattanooga called 800. Talk to me about the project.
Yeah, 800 is a visual artist collective based in Chattanooga that seeks to connect a diverse group of visual artists, both in their background and in their specific practice or skill level, and in their interest, and then to take basically to connect these people, to help form relationships among them, and then to collaborate to create artwork that'll address the issues that affect us as various members of the city, and then to help engage the city, hopefully, through that work. And so I came up with the idea while trying to figure out a way to just do a workshop for artists or something like that. And I presented it to this organization called Build Me a World that operates out of the Fancy Rhino Studio downtown. And they were really they were really encouraging about it. And so right now we operate the 800 meetings within the Fancy Rhino space, and and we're collaborating a little bit with Build Me a World, which basically works to use storytelling and creative things to help the community and to transform the problems in our community. So that's basically where we are now. We recently obtained a grant from a local organization called Causeway, which has the goal right now of making Chattanooga a more inclusive city. It's a diverse city, but not everybody is taking advantage of all the great things about Chattanooga because they may not be aware of it, or they may not be included, or they may be out of the loop, or they may be kind of separated or segregated. So 800 is also like a big part of our mission is to address that through visual art.
So these kind of problems that you mean, maybe sometimes society in Chattanooga don't understand or don't value as much the diversity or even the richness that they have inside.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think, and there's so many other cities where they have rich, diverse populations, but these populations are all in their little pockets, in their little corners. And to an extent, that makes sense because you have a culture, especially if you're an immigrant or something like that, you're going to have your community and your culture, and that strengthens your identity of those specific things that make you who you are. But when you just stay there and there's no engagement among the various people, that leads to ignorance, that leads to confusion, that leads to a city that's not reaching its potential of what it could be, because there are things from each culture, from each group, from each individual that can contribute to the great, that, or better, the sum is greater than the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And basically that's the situation I think Chattanooga is currently struggling with.
Talk to me about your dreams, Josiah.
I am still very much focused on being able to translate to. I've always wanted to make movies, essentially, and so a lot of my artwork. I started regularly sharing and selling my artwork in law school because I decided to go to law school for whatever reason instead of film school, and once I realized that I needed to make sure I kept making art. Even though I didn't have the time or the resources to pursue film, I decided to tell stories through the art. So right now my goal is to develop some of these stories that I've been telling through my visual art to create, to make them actual feature films and productions.
Wow.
And there's a range of stories that I've been creating and working on, but that's my goal. I also would like to make sure I can help 800 develop into a major force in the city that helps connect people through visual art and helps develop and strengthen the community through art. And that just means surrounding myself with really talented people and people that are passionate, and also creating really good projects that will sustain and help us grow and help us learn and move forward.
One last question. Who is your favorite painter or artist and why?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Choose one for me.
What's that?
Just choose one for me.
Okay, choose one. Honestly, I went through this period of like almost 2 to 3 years when I was studying everything. I was finding everything I could about Pablo Picasso. I love the confidence of his lines. The way he draws and the boldness of his lines and the boldness of his images, it's just fascinating. And I love artists who are very versatile. So throughout his career, I mean, he was making paintings greater than most adult students when he was a child in his father's art class. And for him to be able to do the great classical work, but then veer off from that and be bold enough to paint something to venture into cubism and to explore the works that he did with George Braque. It's just, it was really amazing. And I think he's also a very fascinating person in general. He had many flaws. He was by no means perfect. He had a lot of different relationships that showed different sides of him, and it just makes him very interesting. But solely as his work is concerned, I think he was extremely I think he's very deserving of a lot of the acclaim he gets. And while he's so well known, it's been a pleasure to dig deeper into his work and see that. And so it's been an inspiration to me.
Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.